A warm welcome here at the Institute for the Danube Region and Central Europe in Vienna, Alsergrund. My name is Sebastian Schäffler. I'm the director of the IDM, and I have the pleasure to welcome you to this wonderful event, which is called Is There Still a Momentum? It is happening in the framework of the Charlemagne Prize Fellowship that Sophia Beiter is awarded, and we are very happy that we have distinguished guests with us, and we are very much looking forward to the discussion. We will see if our second guest that would join online can join us, because she's currently in a plane. Her schedule changed a little bit. She promised that she will try immediately when she deboarded that she would jump in, and therefore I have placed myself also on this panel. You might say maybe I just seized the opportunity to sit finally on a panel with Lukas Mandl, but I hope that you forgive the spontaneity of the change of the schedule, and I'm sure that we will have an interesting discussion, not because of me, but because of our guests. But this is enough now from my side. I'm very happy that we have people in the room, that we have people joining us online, and now I hand over to the moderator of this evening, Sophia Beiter, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you also from my side for coming, and welcome to this panel discussion. Is there still a momentum? The future of EU enlargement. Thank you to Lukas Mandl for participating, and Sebastian Schäffler, and hopefully we will also see today still Željana Zovko, a member of European Parliament from Croatia. But let's dive right into it and begin actually with maybe the key question also from the title of the event. Is there still a momentum? The full-scale invasion of Ukraine 3 years ago brought back a renewed sense of European unity and made clear that EU enlargement is not only a political decision but a geopolitical imperative. But since then, the mood has maybe changed a little bit again. Some countries are to change their opinion on the support of Ukraine, and now with US President Trump back in office, the geopolitical situation is shifting again. So my question would be, do you think, is there still a momentum, and what does the new situation with regards to the US mean for the Ukraine, for Europe, maybe also for the mutual defense clause that we have in the EU, and for EU enlargement in general? Let's start with Lukas Mandl.
Thank you very much, Sophia, for the moderation, and congratulations to the Charlemagne Prize. I have just understood you to the introduction by Sebastian Schäffler. I suppose it's well deserved, so happy to have this event at IDM today. Thanks to IDM also for always, if there is no momentum, for creating one. This is what IDM is doing, and I'm extremely grateful for that, and I thank you for the excellent cooperation all the time. I have seen Željana Zovko. I was just considering, I think yesterday, last time in the European Parliament. I just came from Brussels. Maybe she is also flying from Brussels at the moment, and will connect with us as soon as she lands. Let's see. Is there still a momentum? I would say, I think I would have answered the question last week before the Friday mess in the White House Oval Office differently than today. Because if European leaders will not understand now what the momentum would be, what's at stake, and what is to do, then they will never understand. I mean, then they are just the wrong leaders. So at the moment in the council meeting, they are hopefully creating the strongest Europe ever when it comes to military capability, and hopefully it will not be too late. And I don't say it as a figure of speech. I really mean it. It can be too late. We will see. We will see in a year or two whether it was too late to take the decisions today or not. We had a special sitting yesterday in our group with Ursula von der Leyen, and I see a very different Ursula von der Leyen than in the last mandate. very, very direct when it comes to priorities, very serious when it comes to the geopolitical situation, very committed to what we always advocated for as a priority in the end, security, and of course always connected to economy. And again, this huge investment that's planned now, especially as an opportunity for the member states to spend, will be also for economy very important. So why do I connect this with enlargement? Because as we have to understand now, if we see there's a momentum now, is that in the first place, and we have to be clear about that, and also self-critical about that, in the first place, for the time being, the story of enlargement is a story of missed opportunities. I mean, we have 2025 now. There were so many opportunities to do the right thing. I always quote Hugo Portisch, famous Austrian journalist, already passed away, but he was a journalist until a few years ago, very active. He was also a journalist in 1955, when we Austrians received the States Treaty. We know what the price was we paid for it. Neutrality, different issue, also have to mention it today. But what Hugo Portisch explains is he was the first in all the media to understand we have a States Treaty. He had the good sources in Moscow, obviously. And his chief editor didn't believe. And he said, we will not publish that because we make ourselves clowns if we publish that. It's not true. They didn't believe. Nobody believed after 10 years. And we have to say, with a view on the Western Balkans and the Eastern Partnership, after only 10 years, nobody believed there will be a solution. The jokes that time were about this year 20 or whatever, 2100. And they are still negotiating a States Treaty for Austria. So this was a joke. And it was true in the end. And Hugo Portisch printed himself an extra Courier Extrablatt. And they are waiting. I mean, people in the Western Balkans have been waiting now for 25 years at least, or rather more, for anything, for something. Didn't happen. Missed opportunities. And that's what I call lack of leadership. Because, I mean, leaders like Lech Wałęsa or Václav Havel did not know what will be the result. They just did something. They even went to prison with two of them. Helmut Kohl, François Mitterrand also did something. Imagine Mitterrand allowed Germany to reunify. After all the history, after all this French observation of the situation, he gave his consent. But Helmut Kohl tried it. I mean, we have seen the election results in Eastern Germany 2 weeks before, but anyway, it was not only German reunification, it was the pathway to European reunification. This was leadership. So what I expect is a less bureaucratic approach and a more convinced and convincing approach on enlargement by today's leaders, especially after what happened last week. And I mean, the Oval Office thing was a show. I mean, we should not stick to the show alone, but it's also, I would say, a clear signal for what's going on. And we will have this US administration for most probably nearly 4 years. So we have to deal with it. I was thinking about addressing the prime ministers of the 5 non-recognizing member states when it comes to the Republic of Kosovo with letters. What I did before, after the beginning of Putin-Russia's war, the beginning of the fully fledged war, February 24, 2022, because there was the big unity. Everybody was talking about the unity. I have received more email messages than before or after from citizens in Austria praising that unity. So there was something around. And I addressed these prime ministers with a clear message that maybe this will be the momentum to recognize Kosovo, because we stick together now under Western values. Well, now the so-called leader of the free world, of the Western world, the political West, does not lead. He doesn't lead. Leadership means service, to serve, to unify, and he's dividing. So the leadership role is not is nothing he's conducting. So we will see where this leads to. And this is one. I mean, at least that I had the thought to again address these people with a letter, these decision takers, which will of course not have any effect on the recognition, but I just want to make the point. At least that I had this thought might be one indication for having a momentum now more than a week ago.
Mhm. Thank you. Sebastian, do you think there is a momentum?
I think there is definitely a momentum. The major challenge is going to be, can we finally utilize, because we had crisis after crisis after crisis, and the times that Lucas described, when there was this leadership, that was also a time of changes, of crises, and the European Union and the European integration was shaped through this. In the recent years, and I would even say decades, these crises have led to other crises. And now we have a conglomerate of different crises where I don't see that this was seized. But the full-scale invasion of Ukraine was a point where apparently something shifted. And then over the past 3 years, a little bit developed with regards to enlargement. And now we can see again that this picks up the pace, because Commission President von der Leyen even mentioned that Ukraine might be joining before 2030. But we must not forget, and what Lucas very rightly stressed, is that other countries have been waiting for a quarter of a century. And if this goes to the expense, and if there is a signal, it just has to be the ultimate crisis, namely that another country attacks you and that there's war in your country. This is a very dangerous signal for a momentum. And so we need to find how we deal with this reality. But I do believe that there is quite an understanding that it's basically now or never, not only for enlargement, but I think for European integration.
Mm-hmm. You both already touched upon the second mandate of Ursula von der Leyen as Commission President. She, in her political guidelines for this new Commission, she also emphasized the need for a larger and stronger union. And we also have now the new Enlargement Commissioner, Marta Kos from Slovenia. What do you think can we expect from the Enlargement Commissioner, but also from Ursula von der Leyen in this legislative period on regarding enlargement?
Well, I always emphasize that enlargement, or rather EU integration, I like the expression of Sebastian more, is in German language you would say a Chefsache, a Chefin-Sache in the case of Ursula von der Leyen. It's possible to delegate the one or the other task to people like a commissioner or a special envoy. We also have a better one now for the Serbia-Kosovo dialogue, by the way. But I mean, this is core business of Europe's destiny. So of course it touches Ursula von der Leyen's own agenda. And in that regard, not only the enlargement commissioner will have to behave, I mean, positively as a parliamentarian, but each and everybody in the commission, and each and everybody in all European and all EU institutions. And the question will be whether we achieve, and that's absolutely not yet to be said, a holistic approach, meaning that we do not only decide today in the council and let's see what we will discuss and decide next week in the parliament, because obviously we have the question whether it's a very technical question how the decisions will be taken, but the parliament will have any kind of oversight anyway. It's not enough to decide on 800 billion today and then to lean back again and to think this would be a solution. That's exactly the wrong thing to do. So the holistic approach would mean from Georgia to Belarus and from the Western Balkans to the Eastern Partnership, including the UK, which is behaving excellently, actually, amazing, including maybe others. Let's see, Canada is very close. And to swiftly go forward with necessary steps, meaning enlargement, meaning integration steps, meaning unifying Europe as much as we can. And yeah, it's a time where we have to do the one thing and to not let go the other. It's in parallel what has to be done, and it's still priority. So we have to leave out regulation stuff and things that were priorities in the last mandate, which was completely wrong already there.
What do you think we can expect from the Commission on Enlargement?
I think it's important that we maybe have also someone who understands the necessity and dynamic here, because she comes from a country that has went through this process and has witnessed that. But I can here only, of course, speculate if this is also something that would help. Overall, I believe that we would need to see the overall commitment, especially also from the member states, because in an enlargement question, the Commission, of course, drives the process, but the member states normally slow it down because they have too many possibilities to veto. If you need unanimity to open a chapter, to close a chapter preliminarily, and things like that, you have almost 80 possibilities to veto from start of declaring that you are a candidate country to finally give consent that a country can join. And this is too much. And this is actually something where the European Commission should, as the supranational institution, be driving that process without these roadblocks coming from the member states. But there's nothing that the current Commission can do, because for that we would need to have a treaty change. Although with the opening and closing of the chapters, this is actually something that could be avoided if the countries no longer demand that. But the overall process, where I would believe it would be enough to give the member countries the possibility to decide if they ratify an accession treaty or not, and not in between block it, because we have far too often seen that this process is slowed down out of domestic policies, not out of the European integration policy.
Yeah, this actually brings me to my next question, which would be if there is a treaty reform necessary to speed up enlargement again, because yeah, as you said, often the enlargement processes are slowed down because of vetoes that are caused by bilateral disputes. So yeah, the question would be, should the EU internally reform to speed up enlargement, or should the EU try to enlarge without internal reform? Good.
The answer is yes, it's clearly yes. And I can only agree the problem is in the capitals. Not the European capital, but the capitals of the member states. I mean, it's all domestic. I mean, even yesterday's Oval Office, last week's Oval Office event is domestic, which is a pity, which also shows a lack of leadership, big lack of leadership. But it has been discussed time and again. I mean, we have the longest time in history without a new EU treaty. We had during this time one Brexit, second Brexit, as I call it, always after King Henry. But
do you think it would be realistic to start this process?
Yeah, I mean, everything. I mean, now we obviously are able to take decisions without the coward governments of Hungary and Slovakia. Imagine if Putin Russia would attack today, the parties, not only in a year or two. Would they still be reluctant to decide on something to defend our continent? We can't have that. We can put our destiny in the hands of those people. So we need a treaty reform, definitely.
Do you want to add on that?
You know that I mean I bore the IDM team for years with the same mantra that I believe we at the latest we should have started that in 2016, because the Brexit was a process where we needed to untangle the relationship between the UK and the EU. We needed to find a new basis of how to work together. But the third point that we did not do would have been to organize ourselves internally in the European Union. And I think if we look at the very difficult process from the Treaty of Nice to the Treaty of Lisbon, where we had two negative referenda on the constitutional treaty, where we had a negative referendum on the Treaty of Lisbon in Ireland, the whole process took 5.5 years. So that means we could have had, even with all the hiccups in the last process, we could have had a new treaty maybe by 2021, which would have been before the full-scale invasion, and we would already be ready, maybe better equipped to tackle challenges that we are now facing.
Mm-hmm. Let's move maybe a bit to a different topic. The last EU elections showed a right-wing shift in the European Parliament, but also then following that in the Commission. We also have now a Commission Vice President from the ECR, the European Conservatives and Reformists. How do you think this current composition of the European Parliament, but also of the European Commission, particularly in the light of this shift to the right, influences the discussions and also possible decisions on EU enlargement?
Positively. I even want to question the narrative of right-wing shift, because it's not true. We just have better majorities. I mean, you have not invented it. I know this narrative, and I've known it since the election, even since before the election. But it didn't happen. It's rather the case that we have a broad center, better possible majority than before. And there are votes which the last mandate, if they were tight, there were 300 to 303 or something like that against us, usually. Sorry for, it sounds partisan, but I do not mean us as a political group or party. I mean us as the reasonable center, including some liberals, including some conservatives, including some social democrats, including sometimes some Greens. And today we have exactly those votes in favor, with a surplus of a few votes. So these are the new majorities. We very much contained the extremists. By the way, they are to the right and to the left. Germany is a good example now to contain them and to go forward, but also to make understood, and that it's very true for Germany, a vote for AfD is a lost vote. And a vote for AfD leads to stronger center-left parties, because they are more present in governments than when these contained extremists gain more votes. This is what happened in Germany. Generally, when it comes to enlargement or EU integration, I still see the larger problem in some council members. So the second chamber of our parliament, so to speak, a pretty strong second chamber compared to other parliaments. And not that much in the European Parliament, even the European Commission. I mean, the vice president from ECI you have mentioned is Italian. Italy has maybe one of the most pro-European governments in history. Giorgia Meloni is doing it 10 times better than all her male predecessors. And she's already long in office than many of them, I think. So it's not given that conservatives would be a negative political movement. The same is true for the liberals. So we can really work with a lot of good people from various different political groups in various countries positively. And I think that's also true for the European Commission, where the mission letters are better, the guidelines are better, much more focused on priorities such as security and competitiveness. We have to speed up. I mean, this is what's happening now. I hope it works. But overall, the election brought better circumstances than we had before.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that?
Partially, I would say. But I mean, obviously, on the fear that was there when Giorgia Meloni was elected, and when it comes to European integration, but also support for Ukraine. That is something that was really surprising. And I think that to a certain extent, apparently, the institutions can shape policies of also more conservative, more right-wing politicians. But I think there is a thin line, and we see it more and more blurred. Now we have two fractions in the European Parliament on the far right, and this is, of course, something that might change. And I'm here especially worried that certain parties will find their common ground, because the overall result is the weakening of the European Union, and this plays into the cards of not only Vladimir Putin, but also many others that want a weak European Union, that want a divided European Union, because they can make better deals, they have less regulations for the disinformation that they want to spread through their social media, and they have better opportunities to exploit whatever resources, human but also natural, etc. They want to do. And I'm here a little bit cautious that a certain normalization might lead to a strengthening, not on the left side, but rather on the far right side, which is, I would say, is much more. I agree. We need to watch both extremist sides, but it's not a horseshoe, but it has a very clear weight on the right side. And here I'm a bit more worried that a certain normalization can lead to disintegration.
Thank you. Let's look a bit more on the view of citizens on EU enlargement. Of course, public support and understanding is crucial for the legitimacy and also success of EU enlargement, yet citizen engagement often remains limited. How do you think should citizens be more involved in the process of EU enlargement of member states as well as candidate countries?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, maybe it's connected what I want to say now. The first thing is, I mean, populism is a temptation for politicians, and extremism is even more of a temptation in times of crisis. And who completely fell into this temptation was Orban, coming from center right, and also Fico, coming from center left. So it's a temptation, it's a question of character. It's a question of leadership, of service, of inclusive or exclusive approach, of unity or division. I really, and why do I say that now? Because it's really time now to take the right decisions. And I mean, the German election is over. In Austria, I think we will not have elections for, I mean, under the Vienna election, we will not have one. After the Vienna election, we will not have one until 426, I think. I mean, I think. And European elections are done. So it should not be the case that elections shape policies in that negative way, but it has been the case very often. So it's really time to take the right decisions, no matter what the polls of the day would say. I mean, Lech Wałęsa, Václav Havel, Helmut Kohl, François Mitterrand didn't look to polls for their decisions I've mentioned before. So
They didn't have so many polling institutions.
maybe that's why. And they didn't have social media. I mean, that's the larger difference, and no messenger services at all. And the telegram was a completely different thing. And the Google Schreiber was very different. Whatever. But it's really can't compare it. It's true. What I want to say is citizens might not care too much because politicians tend not to talk too much about it. I mean, I can only praise the now former Austrian foreign minister for his Western Balkans initiative. He continued to work on it no matter what was happening at home or what policy discussions were at home or what polls would have said or whatever. I'm pretty sure that the new foreign minister will be similar in that regard. And when this is what leadership-oriented politicians have to do, this is one part of it when it comes to politics. The other part is to see the opportunities. And I mean, this is something I guess all of us have experienced 1,000 times, that people, as soon as they start to connect with whomever, in Ukraine or in Kosovo or in wherever, within EU maybe, it gets more and more, and it gets more and more inspiring, and it's just fruitful and substantial. And if we can more and more trigger and motivate for this first step, citizens will be more involved. But for the time being, I mean, maybe it's not that bad. I wanted to tell a story. Last week I was in Tanzania for a parliamentary mission, and a colleague from Ireland and me were talking after all the program before we flew home, and I just asked him how his voting system in Ireland works, a liberal colleague, and I was asking him where his voters vote for him, so what the motives would be to vote for him. And I also added quickly, it will not be that you care for development aid in Tanzania, because as in my case, it will not be in your case the motive for that. And he agreed, of course, and everybody knows. I mean, as a politician, you have to do the right thing and get elected for the other right thing, opposite to right. So it's maybe not that bad with enlargement, but it's close.
How do you think citizens can be more involved or should be more involved?
I agree with everything that Lucas had mentioned, but I also would add that citizens need to inform themselves and be more interested in it. Because, I mean, it shapes so much their realities and their everyday life. European integration is a decisive factor in each and every one of our daily lives, even if we do not understand it and feel it all the time, which, by the way, is something that actually I think it's a good thing, but we far too often only realize what these good things are when they are no longer there. And this makes it very dangerous, because then these populists have the possibility to tell, oh, if we wouldn't have this or that, then it would be so much better. I mean, the basic Brexit narratives that were there revolved around this. So I believe that on the one hand, yes, there should be much more discussion about also opportunities from enlargement. Why are we always talking about the Polish plumber from 2004, where there was I think it was a French minister that said it would lead to all these Polish plumbers coming and taking away the jobs of the French plumbers. I don't know if Someone tried to get a plumber recently, but I mean, I would take any nationality because it's very hard.
I would not take a French plumber. Oh, sorry, that's taped. I remember the time when we were talking about Polish car thieves.
Yeah.
So plumber is already.
Yeah, true. But I mean, overall, we have all benefited so much from enlargement, both old and new member states, the possibilities that are there, and it's not something that is convincingly enough. Yeah, these narratives are not convincingly enough anymore. But on the other hand, I really think that citizens need to demand more that we talk about these kind of things. Because why is a European parliamentary election, 27 national elections, and I remember when, as you know, I'm from Bavaria, and I remember when I was still living in Bavaria, one of the European parliamentary elections, they didn't even put the candidates on the posters. They put the prime minister on the posters to get the votes for the CSU in this case. And this is really, I mean, it has much more improved over the past decade since I left. But why are we as citizens not demanding much more that we talk about this, and also demand that, for instance, the reporting on it in the media is much more going into this? Why are we only hearing what comes bad out of Brussels? Why are we no longer also talking about these positive aspects? And it's a two-way street, I would say.
Let's maybe look to a country that also wants to join the EU, that you are engaging a lot with, Kosovo. And I mean, Kosovo is not recognized by 5 EU member states. How important do you see, like, how important is would be the EU accession for Kosovo citizens? And also, how realistic do you see the chances of Kosovo joining the EU, considering that not all EU member states recognize it?
Very good question. Talking about domestic politics, in the cases of all these 5 non-recognizers, it's always domestically motivated to be non-recognized. None of them has any argument regarding Kosovo itself. It's all about domestic issues first. And that's a shame, frankly. Secondly, it's the youngest state of Europe, and I tend to compare it with Austria 100 years ago. And no historian ever proved me wrong. The history books say about Austria after beginning of First Republic, der Staat, den keiner wollte, so the state nobody wanted. Meaning the own citizens didn't believe in this state, that it could function after monarchy and so on. And it led from bad to worse, as we all know. Biggest crimes in mankind's history. The second thing will not happen in Kosovo. I mean, I don't see the people in any kind behaving aggressively. Absolutely not. I mean, Erhard Busek, since this is the IDM, we should maybe quote Erhard Busek in his very last book, which I guess you have written
with him
together. He has one chapter, and the book is named, by the way, Balkans to Europe Immediately. That's the name of the book. And he has one chapter reflecting on the question what Albanians believe in terms of religion and so on, spirituality. And if he reflects on this and that, as one would do it. But in the end, he writes down, he came to the conclusion that Albanians believe that they are Albanians. And I like this very much because it's exactly also my observation. And it's an exact expression for it, I would say. Why do I say that? Because also historically, they might stick together a lot, but there is not any historic proof of any aggressive behavior towards others. That's not what Albanians did in the past. By the way, Kosovo is a multi-ethnic state. There's a very modern constitution. Formally, I mean, each of our countries, the constitution is the one thing, practice is the other thing, but we tend to go towards the direction the constitution draws. And multi-ethnicity, multi-religious approach, multinational, I mean, in terms of ethnicity and nationality approach is given. So this all is fine. One big problem from the inside of Kosovo can become that they also start not to believe, or to believe even less than already, in this state. And then they maybe, many of them maybe would tend to thrive for big Albania, Great Albania, or whatever is it called, which would be wrong at all. As it would be wrong to have what's called big Serbia. So, but who will be responsible in the main, in the first place for that is reluctance in EU decision taking when it comes to integration and enlargement, because of waiting time of 24 years and more already, what we have talked before. I guess the probability, and maybe it's wishful thinking, but I like wishful thinking. The probability for Kosovo is not smaller than the one for Serbia, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Bosnia-Herzegovina, because there will be no accession for Serbia without recognizing Kosovo. And as soon as Serbia recognizes Kosovo, that's what the Spanish and others tell me, is they make their decision dependent on Serbia. Which is crazy, but which is given. So as soon as Serbia, which has a big mess now domestically, as we all know, so nobody knows where it will lead to. But I'm sure Günther Fehlinger knows, but nobody else would know where this will lead to. So to put it in a nutshell, probability is given. Euro is already there, by the way. European approach is big. European aspiration is big. Each and every study and poll says that. By the way, confidence and optimism is huge, huger than, for example, in Austria. So you see what mentality is given there. And this is more or less the message of Gerhard Bussek's book also. The Western Balkans should join EU jointly at once. We have to end this bureaucratic approach of, I was thinking about when we were talking before, exactly now, 5 years ago, a bit more, in the European Parliament, we had to decide quickly, as they say, on a new methodology due to France Macron's wish, in order to get it done. We did it. Is there anything done? No. So this bureaucratic approach is methodology after methodology and blah blah. It's exactly the opposite of leadership as we have talked about.
Thank you. Do you want to add something?
No, I don't think I have anything substantial to add to this. No,
yeah, Austria is very committed to EU enlargement, but maybe particularly to the Western Balkans. And geopolitical situation and developments also make the accession of Ukraine and Moldova a key priority. How would you say can the EU strike a balance of not prioritizing or favoring one region before the other?
It already does, frankly. No, this is an issue. I don't blame anybody for it, because I was involved, so to speak, when it all happened, and it was clear. It was a very unusual von der Leyen step. Given her policies and her approach, usually it was a Sunday after the beginning of the war. I remember clearly. She said Ukraine must become a EU member state. It was not in any kind of agreement with anybody. It was. She behaved nearly like a politician. She said something she wanted to achieve, like a real, a statement. It's also positive. But people waiting for accession for 25 years in the Western Balkans feel a bit abandoned by this whole Ukraine approach, and especially by granting Ukraine candidate status and not them. I'm very much in favor of granting Ukraine candidate status. But but most of Western Balkan countries still don't have candidate status, if I'm correct. That's crazy. I even recommend it because they asked me, otherwise I would not dare to. I say to the government of Kosovo, of course, apply for membership the same year as Ukraine. Then at least one can always say it was the same year as Ukraine, no matter what happens. So but this can be an Austrian role, as you said, Austria. Austria can let's say advocate for this balance, to not forget the Western Balkans. And sometimes it's crazy in politics. I mean, I don't want to talk about Middle East today, but sometimes something bad has to happen that things move forward. So in the Western Balkans, it's not as bad as in Ukraine, but in Ukraine, things move forward. But that's out of balance.
How do you think the balance can be kept?
I think, I mean, and this goes back to the question that you asked before with that recognition. You know? I mean, I think this is a clear imbalance that comes out of the European Union member states. Why are they not? Why is not? When we talked about it, we know why, but it's a rhetorical question in the sense like, why are they not recognizing this? And why is this not a step that we take also in this direction to show? I think now with the signal towards Bosnia and Herzegovina, that this is also a little bit more inclusive in the approach of trying to get them closer to membership. But the challenge that I do see is that on the one hand side, yes, you should not neglect the Western Balkan countries in this process. This must absolutely not happen, but it must also not mean that it slows down the progress of others. And if we look at the Republic of Moldova and Ukraine, I think they are very ambitious and they're doing the work, but there is a window until that might close and that might cause much.
Monitorizujemo tranzitnog putnika iz Rima za Zagreb da se javi na šalter informacije.
I think we have our speaker with us now. And thank you for joining, Juliana Zovko. Very nice that you managed to join in the end from the airport, I think.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I was I'm late, but I just landed in Split, so it will be quite noisy, I'm afraid, because I'm still at the airport. I don't want to leave, but I would just like to say welcome you and thank you for inviting me to your panel, and I am ready to talk about the issues regarding the enlargement. I'm sorry, I didn't follow the beginning of the conference, and I would like to thank my colleague Lucas Mandel, who is a great supporter in our group, in EPP group, for Western Balkan countries to join European Union as at the same pace as we are seeing the Eastern Partnership countries.
Thank you. Were you finished?
I was finished. Yeah. Thank you.
So actually, on my list, there was next a question for you. So that fits quite well that you were able to join now, because you are not only a Croatian citizen, I believe, but also a Bosnian citizen.
Bosnia and Herzegovina, yeah.
You began your political career and your diplomatic career also in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So my question would be, how is the EU enlargement process perceived by the Bosnian public on the one hand, and maybe also on the other hand, how is Bosnia and Herzegovina's EU accession process viewed in Croatia as a neighboring country? So in both of the publics of the countries.
Right. as you rightly said, I am a citizen of both countries, Bosnia and Herzegovina. I have a double citizenship and Croatia. I live in Split currently, but my origins are from Mostar in Herzegovina. So I would prefer that you don't cut it short, because Herzegovina is a very important part, and the identity of Herzegovina is quite key for people who are coming from there. So I know that the people are trying to simplify. Bosnia and Herzegovina is still, I mean, as I can see, that the European goal is still present. So 68% of citizens are in favor of European Union, but the latest research also shows that less than 50%, like 47, think that it will ever happen, because they're rather skeptical about European Union's intentions to enlarge and to accept Bosnia and Herzegovina into European Union. That shows also quite a cynicism that is reigning among population in not only in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but in all Southeast Europe, as the enlargement fatigue took its toll, and lots of young people have left. Most of them are in Germany, Austria, and the other countries. Now we are seeing. Now also we are seeing the reversal, as the crisis of our industry in European Union, and lack of jobs, also lack of security, and all the issues that we are facing nowadays are making them understand that after all, it's better to be at home and in at home safety, and that European Union is not such a promised project like it used to be. So I'm afraid these are the questions that we will have to face, because that might also strengthen this internal nationalism that we see in Serbia, that we see also in Montenegro, with some of the parties. And so in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we know that electoral law reform has not been done. The point that was the focus of international community was mainly on the other issues, and not on the equality of three constitutive people, and the balance among the power sharing in Bosnia and Herzegovina. That was the real crisis that we are seeing developing now in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where you have two forces that were at stake. One was the centralism coming from Sarajevo, and the other one was the separatism from Republika Srpska. So these forces are the ones that are really dividing the country in two, and destabilizing over the years, over the last 20 and more years. And this year we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of Dayton Paris Peace Agreement. That was the point when U.S. Administration has really done a great peace deal with the European administration, and this is something that we will celebrating in Ohio, in Dayton, Ohio. But unfortunately, we are seeing what is happening. That 30 years after Dayton Paris Peace Agreement, we still don't see a stable country without international community. So it's quite. I called for a lessons learned exercise throughout my mandate as a parliamentarian. I've been in a European Parliament in the last 9 years, so this is my third mandate, and I'm in Foreign Affairs Committee and Defense Committee. So for me, it goes in a cycle. The war in Ukraine, aggression on Ukraine, has brought the enlargement on the agenda. Baltic states and Poland are pressing, also Romania, that all these countries that we have never thought that they will be so speedily accessing European Union, that they are now favorite candidates, and Western Balkan is still left in its own turbulent fights, internal fights, and problematic rhetoric. So I think that it's very good what you are organizing and what Austrian members of the parliament are doing together with Croatian, together with Slovenian, Italian, and some other Bulgarian, the people who are coming from the European countries that are surrounding Western Balkan countries. But unfortunately, we don't have this preventive diplomacy efforts to really bring these issues that are dividing these countries and finally to resolve them. My point is that we need something that was, more energy, more focus, and more joint approach to Western Balkan and not particular approach, because I don't think, I'm very skeptical nowadays that any country can join, although we can call them favorite or not. The way that Croatia was doing it as a last country was with great spirit of being united, the position and opposition in those days. That European Union is the main goal, but I don't see it so much in other countries in Western Balkan, and I think that we have to help them in to find this spirit of first of optimism, because if we see such a high level of skepticism, we know that other third actors will interfere. They are interfering, and they are raising these high tensions, and but also we cannot allow that. That this catharsis after the war that happened and the unresolved issues such as finding the missing persons and recognizing what really happened in the war, that brings also the problems into European Union, because this is something that we cannot allow as well to continue.
Thank you very much. I think we can now open the floor for some questions from the audience. Are there some questions? Yes, please.
My name is Günther Fellinger-Jahn. I'm activist for EU enlargement, actually from 1994 to 2004 for the first 10 countries. And now since 20 years, I'm campaigning for Ukraine, since the Orange Revolution, for the Western Balkans to join, for Moldova. The concept is called EU 37, and I'm really totally supportive. There's just one small condition, which I think, now that will be also my question to the honorable members of the European Parliament. There's just one condition, which all the new countries, in my view, for a fast Big Bang enlargement in 2029 or any future point, they must fulfill. And we have to ask them and make it a condition to the billions or potentially trillions, which we will now transfer in wealth to the new 9 countries to come. And that's the recognition of the Republic of Kosovo. And we can expect that from all the countries. And if they are not ready for that, they are not really fully understanding what our foreign policy is, and they are not part of the free world. And then please wait until you have done this one condition. And here's my question to the 2 honorable members. Please, can you make that a condition for the further enlargement process to all the incoming countries? Because that's absolutely essential for peace in Europe. Thanks a lot.
Juliana, ladies first.
No, I know, Lucas, that you are a very great promoter of Republic of Kosovo. I'm, as a Croatian, I am very much supportive of Kosovo as well to become a member of European Union as soon as possible. But you know the difficulties that Bosnia and Herzegovina has in this regard. They are not recognizing Kosovo because of the Serb component, and we have still 5 countries, members of European Union, that are not recognizing Kosovo. So this is imposing conditions on any of these countries that is different than the conditions that were imposed on Croatia and the other countries. It's not fair, and I think we are not in this enlargement fatigue. We are adding just more of the burden. The alignment with our foreign policy, that's a requirement, but to put the level more than we are putting to member states, it would not be honest and fair towards the new members. So, as personally, I'm as a Croat and somebody who is representing Croatian. I mean, I live in Croatia, I represent Croatian interests. We are recognizing Kosovo, but I think that imposing the conditions on the enlargement countries that we have not agreed in our foreign policy together, it's not something that we should do. As a former diplomat, this is something that I can tell you. Because apart from that, we have many other issues, rights of the minorities in certain countries, the language and everything. If you're in European Parliament, you will see dissonant voices from different member states, different representatives. I mean, we are not representing the states, we are representing the political group in which we are working, European People's Party. So we have our program, we have our politics. So on all the issues, we have to compromise and we have to agree. So we cannot, and the council is the one where they agree on the most sensible issues. But for the enlargement countries, the utmost is the rule of law for me, and rule of law, and as well, the legal system must be such that corruption cannot prevail over the life of the citizens. And once we get this level of the corruption out of these countries and the judicial system functioning, I think that's the main condition that we need. And also something that I did with Lucas Mandel when he was doing the report on crime in Western Balkan. And it's opening the archives. For me, this is the condition: opening the archives after the Yugoslav war that are still in Belgrade, that Secret Service has, because we have to know the truth, what was happening and what was happening during the totalitarian communism regime. So without this, we cannot really know what was what is the real issue of the divide between the peoples and the communities, and this network of people are still functioning, and they are very well organized as a criminal gangs around the Western Balkans. So I think that's more interesting for Austrian public and for Austrian citizens than anything else.
You want to add something?
Well, I don't dare to add a lot, but I can only repeat what I have said before, practically speaking, which is not a contradiction to what Juliana Sofko has said already. Practically, I don't think that Serbia will become an EU member state without recognizing Kosovo. And the 5 non-recognizers all claim they would recognize Kosovo as soon as Serbia recognizes Kosovo. I don't know when this will happen, but as I would say, natural-born optimist, I think this can happen, but it will not be. And that's where I agree very much with Juliana Sofko. You can make it. I mean, the word deal is already rotten and contaminated in our world, but this cannot be a deal, as you have just explained it. No matter whether your office is oval or not, it will not happen that way.
Thank you. I think there was another question. Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment from a British perspective. I was ambassador to Croatia shortly after the war, and then deputy high representative in Mostar in Wolfgang Petrich's time. And my final post was ambassador to the OSCE, the Organization for Seriously Confused Europeans. And my point is basically this: we have to start from where we are now, and the immediate crisis is indeed the one in Ukraine. We are faced with a situation where the United States Trump is upending the security architecture that we have enjoyed since, let us say 1949. My friends in the military tell me that we have 6 months to organize credible European-based defense for Ukraine. And that will require, I think, a coalition of the willing, which will have to be based on Britain, France, Germany, Poland, the Baltic and Nordic states. Now, these countries can cooperate using the NATO framework, but outside the NATO framework, together with the willing states in the European Union. And I think that if this is successful and we somehow manage to at least stabilize the Ukraine and prevent it being destroyed by Putin, because that is his aim. We should be in no doubt about it. He denies the existence of the Ukraine as having a separate identity. And I think, laudable as the goal of enlargement is, and I personally was heavily involved in it at the London end, both EU and NATO in the 1990s. I think we have to keep going, but at the moment we must concentrate everything on preventing Vladimir Putin, with the cooperation and connivance of Donald Trump, from annihilating the Ukraine. So I think the EU should, as an institution, not get bogged down in the important issues of the conditionality of EU membership. And I agree with everything that has been said. We've wasted 25 years from Dayton. And as Juliana Zovko said just now, Bosnia-Herzegovina is not a stable state. Dodik is threatening secession once again with his Russian friends. Remember, all his money is parked in St. Petersburg. So let's concentrate on Ukraine and let the European Commission do its very best to mobilize funding and support.
Do you want to comment, or does any one of you want to comment on that?
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know
can I just say a few words? I mean, I think that the gentleman is Colin Monroe, if I'm not mistaken. I know from the time when the Petric was in the office in Bosnia and Herzegovina, I was working there. The fact is, Great Britain has left European Union, and we are still negotiating in which framework we will engage. We still don't have a security framework in our work. I'm shadow rapporteur for UK-EU relations. And we are still not sharing or defense or security information. When UK left, they also left with intelligence and that was replaced by Turkish forces, which is unfortunate, like the Altea operation. I would rather concentrate on one thing that we did right, and that's preserving peace for 30 years in Bosnia and Herzegovina, in order not to let this peace and stable state fail, then to think about what we can achieve in separating from United States. I think I was just in Washington for a week. I don't think that US will abandon Ukraine. I'm absolutely sure that they will provide and continue providing security guarantees, but the modality in which they will agree with it, that's left to see. While we are talking, there is a council meeting from the leaders in order to decide how to invest more into defense. We had the discussion with the Commission. Commission cannot take the sole authority over our future defense spending and in which way it will be done. It should be engaged with the Parliament, European Parliament. This is something that we have discussed with the President of the Commission and the Council. Leaders of who are members from the member states in the Council will, and I think they have decided today how they will engage and continue. European Union cannot be separated one from each other. And I think it was absolutely wrong that Macron was inviting separate leaders and then Keir Starmer picking up who's going to engage and who's not. The European Union will stay together, will resist together, will continue helping Ukraine together, but also I am very much advocating that this is being done with UK, but also with United States, because without United States, I'm not very optimistic that this will last for a long time.
I can only say I hope you're right about the United States under Trump, but the present signs are that you may not be right.
I mean, Bosnia and Herzegovina was only saved, and Croatia, thanks to the United States. I mean, Croatia, thanks to Croatian forces, without any help, really. But Bosnia and Herzegovina was saved. I mean, I was ambassador in Paris, and Chirac explained me the way he was asking for intervention in Bosnia and Herzegovina from Bob Dole, who was Republican congressman, who really put this through the Congress, and Clinton was not so enthusiastic at the time as a president. History, I mean, the problem is that in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the history is written by outsiders, never by those who really have witnessed these events. But as ambassador in France and Madrid and Rome, I had a fair share of meeting with these historical figures who told me the account how it happened. So I'm absolutely convinced that we do need United States to have this done and to protect Ukraine, and I'm sure that US will not abandon Ukraine people. So I spoke to Ukrainian congresswoman as well in Republican one in America, and I'm positive about this.
Yeah. Do you want to add something?
If I may, I mean, I have to be very careful now because we experienced Juliana Sofko on fire, and she has a lot to say about UK and US. And I want to have a good Strasbourg week side by side with Juliana Sofko next week. And I will not contradict anything. I just want to provide my perspective on some of these things. First, as I said in our meeting this week, Juliana, I didn't even know your clear stance on that. I think even in the resolution next week, we should commend Keir Starmer's stance for Europe in this crucial moment. And I guess before you came, Excellency, today I already said it here already. I mean, the second Brexit, as I call it always, after King Henry, it's the second Brexit already, and it was a mistake, a huge mistake, ahistoric. But this is not our issue today. It happened.
It's a colossal mistake.
Absolutely. So it's not our issue. We have this mess. I highly praise the US for liberating not only Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also Kosovo. And since Dubravka Šuica once told me, Juliana, the Croatians liberated themselves, I will never forget the way she told me that. So it's a historic fact. But I mean, the current US president was a landlord in New York City at that time. So let's see where it will lead to. No matter what, I like your optimism. I advocate for optimism too, but we have to be self-capable as EU in the first place. That's also something I agree totally on. But if Keir Starmer wants to help, we will let him help. I mean, I think we need them, and Italy was missing in the list of the coalition of the willing, and I'm absolutely convinced Italy is on board.
Yes, I agree with that.
And this is just what I wanted to say here. It's a crucial moment in time, and I mean, the title of today's event is enlargement. This is why we talk about enlargement, Excellency. But of course, we have the big mess.
No, I mean, don't misunderstood me. I was educated in London, so I'm very much fan of UK, and I spent my best years in London where I graduated. So, and I was heartbroken when UK left EU. So that's, you know, you're always willing, we're always open for your comeback. So. But first, we have to negotiate the security framework, and I think these are some of the issues that are still pending, because this cannot be a reset that we are talking about on certain issues. So I would not mix these issues, and I think that European leaders, member states leaders should decide, and they are deciding about this joint endeavor that they have to take, because we know that we need a nuclear shield that the US is providing, and there are still many issues that are pending, and the time is running out. We need Americans to continue helping now immediately, and I think that diplomacy should engage as much as possible with Trump's people, and not to take it for their personal domestic reasons to divide Europe from US. I think that at this time, the ones who will pay and who will suffer are Ukrainians. So we cannot allow this to happen.
Yeah, since I will be in Berlin next week and not in Strasbourg, I can maybe, although I'm not contradicting, but I would add to it and maybe even bridge some of the things that have been mentioned, because I completely agree that if we are not able to defend a sovereign Ukraine, everything else doesn't matter anymore.
That's my point.
Because if Ukraine ceases to exist, European integration has failed, and this will be the first domino that could topple each and everything that we have achieved over the past 8 decades.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you have any more questions, maybe online or in the room? Yeah, right there.
I would like to raise 2 points. I'm Ulrich Schneckener. I'm a member of the International Board of IDM. And well, my main job is in Germany. I'm a professor at the university there. I would like to raise 2 points. The first is related to our discussion on the Western Balkans. And here I'd like to start with a little anecdote. Last year at the Globsec Forum in Prague, I followed a conversation between Vučić and Milatović, the new president from Montenegro. And Vučić said to Milatović on stage, well, you hope to join the European Union very soon, but let me tell you something. So Vučić said, Serbia will be first to join the European Union. And as long as Serbia will not join the European Union, no other Western Balkan states have the chance to join. Milatović kept very cool, actually, I would have to say, and he on this conference, he advocated this slogan, becoming the 28th member in 28. And I think we were talking a lot about, okay, we need treaty reform, we need this and this, and I agree with most of these things, but maybe it would be also good to just focus on one little thing, taking Montenegro in, because I think that's the most likely state at the moment. And if we can prove Milatović right and Vučić wrong, I think we would also send a good message to the Western Balkans. And I think this can even be done under the current procedures, which are, of course, a problem. Yeah? So I wonder whether or not the focus could be on Montenegro for now and speed that up and make it happen. My second comment is on this broader picture the British gentleman has raised already. And of course, maybe that's not the right time to think about these kind of more structural or institutional things, but I guess we would probably need something like what some people call a European NATO. That does not mean leaving NATO, does not mean leaving the EU, but there needs to be something in between. And this ad hoc coalition is maybe like a start, but I think it will not last very long, in particular when the first kind of problems arise, First, the consensus may not, be as long as it is needed. So probably we need something like a security treaty or a security union even. Of course, if all the EU 27 would be part of that would be great, but I don't see that. So at least give those EU states a chance to be part of it who want to be part of it. We could include Ukraine as a member of that union, as a member of that treaty. We could have Moldova as a member of that treaty. We could have the Western Balkan states as a member of this treaty. So they could already be some at one as an equal member at some table. The UK needs to be there. Norway needs to be there. So something like that needs to emerge, I think, out of that situation, because otherwise we will waste too much time for all these enlargement, technicalities. But security first, and then enlargement as the second step. But this needs to be done in a framework, I guess.
Thank you. Juliana Zovko, do you want to say something about that?
We already have a European defense system. We have European Defense Agency. We are strengthening European pillar of NATO, and we are also doing, thanks to, unfortunately to say that, thanks to Ukraine war, we are also having this DIRPA and EDIP program that we are providing and gathering our resources in order to invest into production for ammunition and the help. So this is happening. This is happening, and this is something that we are working on. We have Altea peace operation. We also have a rapid deployment force. But the issue is we are not. We are still far away from European peace force, European army. So this is something that no one wants to discuss, and what that would include, and the joint commandership. This is why I was telling to the ambassador, that UK ambassador, that in order to cooperate in this framework, we need UK as well to start talking about security framework in order to include them into our European into our European programs, into our European way of strengthening our defense capabilities. And as we have heard from all our leaders, they are ready to increase and to go along with the proposed increase of the budget for the defense. We are all aware that we don't have enough and we have not produced enough, but there's no NATO, European NATO. NATO is without money, without capabilities, nothing. And we have many of countries like Austria, they are not part of the NATO. So the fact is that we have to rethink our way of strategic approach to who our friends are and who our adversaries are. For America, that's for sure China for Trump administration. But we are still in a situation that we don't really seriously consider. We have strategic compass that we voted for in 2000, and it is our roadmap for European defense. But we are not serious about the defense when we only ad hoc react on the dangers that are appearing. We are not considering our southern borders. We are not considering our borders in Western Balkan, in Southeast Europe, and this requires strategic planning. And I think that this situation, it's not only about Ukraine, it's about all the issues and dangers that are coming, and that we have left open our how do you say it, like in a match, we have opened our defenses from all sides. I organized a series of conferences with my colleagues, like in Sevilla and Split and in Tallinn, in order to engage MPs from these countries to see what the real issues and what the dangers for them are. we have to include Western Balkan countries for their knowledge for production of the weapons, production of the ammunition, and their expertise as well. We know that 40% of the production of the arms was done in Bosnia and Herzegovina because of the low price of electricity and the steel aluminium that was there, but no one was using these facilities so far. So we are working on a white paper that will be adopted very soon. Our commissioner, Andris Kubilius, will present this white paper, I think, very, very soon. We have done these proposals as well in our group. We are presenting it as an input how this future strategy of European Union should be in our defense. But we have to see, I mean, Norway, I mean, we had the Secretary General of NATO, who now as a Minister of Finance is not so ready to increase the spending. So once you are coming back to your domestic politics, they're facing the issues that they have to be re-elected and also to reply to the domestic public on the social needs and the social welfare needs that the public is used to. So, and I think that we just have to adopt to American logic. Social welfare state doesn't exist there, and but we have used their security for our prosperity in Europe, as they say, in a brutal way. And I think that we have to be aware that there is no one to protect us. That we need to invest more, but who from the politicians will be ready as well to say, like Keir Starmer did, the development aid is over. We've seen that his minister has resigned after this decision. But we will see how this will be dealt in European countries, because we are very much used to our way of life, which was greatly helped by the fact that we had this US protection for a long time, and and orientation towards. We were behaving a bit like non-aligned movement in a way, if I may say so, in European Union.
I don't know, do you want to make a very short remark on the first remark regarding Montenegro, maybe, or?
Regarding Montenegro, yeah.
Very-
Oh, okay, sorry. No, but I will not comment. I commented today on the Montenegro report. I had a meeting with Vice Minister of Montenegro, and I don't think that there is awareness there that they have to deal with the issues that they have with from the fact that Croatia was quite upset after the vote in the parliament that was instrumentalized by Serbian politics on Jasenovac. The second issue is the issue of our missing person and the historical memory. Some of these issues should be dealt with. We have a Mandic who is still doing his politics that is absolutely not aware of the fact that with this politics he cannot advance towards European Union. So we cannot accept just one European face and behind the forces that have not cleared their conscience and that they have not changed their rhetorics. This is something that is unacceptable for our publics, because all these, I mean, I wish the best to Montenegro, but once they finish negotiations, they will have to go to approval to every country, and there will be a referendum. And I always say you have to do the pedagogy that you are accepted by all the member states, and if there are some issues that they see you as a troublemakers, then it will be really bad for the publics to accept the fact that you will be given a carte blanche to enter European Union. I'm sorry to say this, because now we see Croatia is really sympathizing with Ukraine because of the fact that we have been in a war and we have been under aggression from the forces coming from Serbia and Montenegro as well. That was at that time a part of the problem, and they have to reconcile with certain facts, and in order to have this decision acceptable, because Croatia has done its fair share of reconciling, and also we had our we were making difficult decisions, sending our people to Hague, who were known as war heroes, but Croatia has done that. And this is something that has to be done in Montenegro.
Thank you. We're a bit short on time. But if you want to make one sentence.
Three brief comments, because I mean, it was a pleasure to listen to you. I mean, you described a kind of a paradise, like Norway included, Switzerland included, Ukraine included. And this leads me to this old quote: if professors were kings, kings were professors. But that's what I call leadership. I mean, you have a clear vision, and that's what I miss often in politics. So thank you for that. Secondly, I was always against the Europe of different pace and Europe of different depth and so on. But I'm ready to think out of the box. I think in these crucial times, we need maybe something else, and it could be a security alliance beyond EU borders, additionally to what already exists. And Juliana Sofko explained it very well, from EDF to PESCO and so on, and rapid response forces, etc. What I want to say is, and that's the third point, I hope I don't miss it, about Montenegro and Serbia, and Vucic claiming Serbia would be first. The Bible tells a lot about those who think they would be the first. So this might apply to Vucic. That's actually not what my third point would have been, but the day was already long, and I think I have already said enough.
Yeah, because the day was already long. This event also comes to an end, but maybe just to wrap up very briefly, and for you, Sebastian, what would be the consequences of failing to achieve further EU enlargement? Very briefly.
That's the end of European integration, as I have mentioned, and I know it's annoying if the panelists don't really answer the question that was asked, but I also really want to make two brief points to the things that were mentioned before. I see an appeal of telling a success story, and Montenegro easily provides that, because it doesn't matter. We could integrate it, no problem. But the challenge can be that you have an additional veto player that would then just pay back what Vucic said on the Globsec stage. And this is really something that we need to avoid. But much more important, I think sometimes it helps if we look into the history books, and we had something that you described, which was called the Western European Union.
Yes.
And this is actually transferred in the Treaty of Lisbon in this Article 42.7, which also includes neutral states like Austria. So it's there. It just, and what Luca said, we have a nice, it's not a constitution, but it's a treaty. But the reality looks a little bit different. And here I see potential if we fill that with life. And therefore we need the capabilities, and that would be something that could lead maybe in this direction. And one last point, and again here I'm the broken record, but 28 is doable for all candidate countries, because if we look at the history of negotiations, the average time we spent was 3.5 years. So the quickest was the UK, actually, it took 12 months. The longest was Portugal, it was 77.
Going out took longer.
Going out took much longer than going in for the UK. Okay, it was a different European communities back then, but the average negotiation time took 3.5 years. So it's possible, we've done it before, we just need the willingness. And I think the parliament would be ready. But we come back to what we've said, the capitals are
Great. I think that's a nice remark at the end. Thank you very much to our amazing speakers, to our members of European Parliament, Juliana Sofko and Lucas Mann, and also to Sebastian Schäfer. Please a big applause for our speakers.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And also, thank you very much for joining here. This event is also recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel as most of our events. And of course, we're very happy if you sign up to our newsletter or follow us on social media so that you don't miss any future events. Yeah, thank you also to Anthony Bloomberg for helping me with the streaming today. And yeah, thank you very much for coming and have a nice evening.